Sasa pia kwa Ruto bado ndio kuingia mlango wa nyuma.
Ile vitisho walikuwa naye ati ndio wapate serikali nusu mkate haitafanyika tena. Haiwezekani.
Azimio haitaki nusu mkate. Haitaki nusu mkate. Ieleweke wazi kabisa. Hiyo mambo ya kusema nusu mkate iishe.
After all, hii mkate yao nimekauka na wanyonga. Ama namna gani? Sina wanyonga. Watu nakwambia bwana Eugene wanataka tu wapatie chai ili mkate isiwanyonge. Msikubali mambo ya mkate nusu. We don't want it, but if they continue disrespecting you as leaders of this country, we will talk to our people. We start charting a path for self-determination.
Kuna mtu awe mrefu mfupi wa chama hii ama wa chama ile ataendesha mambo ya vita katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Na huyu rais sisi tunakaa na yeye pale. Mtu yeyote atajaribu kucheza na yeye, mimi na hao Kimani Chongwa, Dede Nyoro, huyu Kingara tumekaa chonjo.
Wanatisha sisi. Sisi ni wengi kushinda watu yako. Kwa hivyo wewe wanatisha sisi. Watu wetu wako tayari kuvumilia ili mazungumzo yaendelee. Lakini ukileta fitina basi Wakenya wako tayari.
We are coming as Azimio with open hands. We want you to unclench your fists and come to the table with open minds.
As we walk into the negotiations with our friends in Azimio, we want to tell them that we are discussing on how to end violence in our politics. We will discuss how they will accept election results.
Kwa hivyo tunamuomba Ichungwa, mheshimiwa, ajue kwamba wananchi hapa maisha imekuwa ngumu. Na tusifanye mchezo kwa maneno ya mazungumzo.
Why have they excluded the leadership of Azimio inside there from Mount Kenya? Wameweka kando. So these people, ukisikia mtu anasema inclusivity, ni yeye mwenyewe ni ukora. Angalia mkono yake vizuri.
Sisi hatujasema hata siku moja tunataka kuwa ndani ya serikali ya Ruto. Mambo tunataka handshake. Handshake na mkono ambayo yuko chafu. Utashika mkono ambayo yuko chafu. Sitaki kushika mkono ya Ruto ambayo ni chafu. Sitaki.
Hatuna sababu ya kuamsha ule mzee ambaye tumemaliza kazi yake. Kazi ya Raila imeisha, sisi tuko na shughuli ya kutimiza agenda yetu. Hii maneno ya dialogue haina nafasi, na tusipojichunga wataanza kutusuia, kuintimidate, watasuia, they will bury us from achieving our agenda.
Hata sisi viongozi wa kidini tuwekwe ndani, tuwe sehemu ya hizo mazungumzo, ndio tupeane mawaidha, kwa sababu we are independent bodies. Sisi hatuna mwenye siasa ambao tunaegemea.
Waje pamoja waongee ili nchi yetu ambayo imekuwa na historia ya amani endelee kuwa na amani, watoto wetu wasome vizuri, na sisi wachungaji tuhudumie washiriki katika njia inayofaa kwa sababu ya amani ambayo iko nchini Kenya.
If it is talk, they must be done in a public venue. Because we cannot continue wasting resources which we don't have for the people of the republic kwenda katika mikahawa ya kifahari when we are discussing how we can lower the cost of living.
Tunataka kuuliza kwanza, kando na zile ambao mnataka tuongee, ile hasara mulilete juzi kwa maandamano, nani atagharamia? Iko kwa hiyo agenda ama namna gani? Barabara, biashara ya watu iliharibiwa, nani atagharamia? Hiyo ndio itakuwa agenda ya kuongea.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has told me he's ready.
Na kama Kalonzo amekuja kusimamia, hata mimi na propose Rigathi Gachagua asimamie asimu hii.
Na rais hapa, watu hapa Mlima Kenya walikuchagua wewe na wakakupatia kura zao zote. Wamesema kwa kauli moja mambo ya handshake hawataki.
Mimi nakuomba, kwa sababu nimesikiza hawa watu, wadosi wetu, wewe wachana na hiyo dialogue, tufanye kazi, Kenya iende mbele.
Emulate our president. Yeah? Daktari William Samoei Ruto. A guy who sits with us. He will sit with you. He may not agree with something you are saying, but he want to listen to you. And he will tell you, persuade me. Is that the kind of leadership we want?
I don't want to be a prophet of doom. I've never been. But I've been in this space long enough to observe something. nothing will come out of these cold talks.
Walijaribu kusema huu anasema na serikali ya shares. What I meant, and I want to clarify, ya kwamba uwezi vuna pahali hujapanda. Na uwezi panda mahindi uvune maharagwe. Kati huo. Yes.
Tutaungana na hawa viongozi wote tuweze kubadilisha taifa letu la Kenya, because we have a historic moment as a people. We have a historic moment as a nation.
And we also agreed that we shall have no handshake and no nusu mkate.
Right, lots of his promises were happening, of course, in Mount Kenya, where the president was. You can see they are climbing Mount Kenya with a bag of promises. Right, that is what Ozone has drawn today inside the Star. And also, we had this one, interestingly, a very interesting one by Victor on the promises as well. The president and his team, they're singing about all these promises as well. We will do, we have plans, we have set aside, we intend to do, we shall do, and we shall do, and we shall do it, we are doing, and we are doing it. Interesting. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Tail end of the program right now. We want to analyze. Wednesday will be a big day, as I've mentioned, where these talks will begin. And I just wanted to pick up with you, Richard Onyonka, because we've seen, especially the sentiments that is coming from the ground.
Yes.
Hardlines are still being proffered from every side. Or there will be no handshake. Raila has been very categorical. We don't want handshake. But the issue of election is done and dusted. Where are we at, and what do you foresee from your own assessment? Will this really fly?
This whole experience, for me, is really sad. Mm-hmm. Whatever that is happening in our body politic is really sad, very painful. Because I think, as we spoke a few minutes ago, most probably, Honorable Kainan, and I think we kind of put a pin on it. Mm-hmm. Most probably, I think the problem with our country is our politics. That I honestly and sincerely do believe there are certain issues that need to be sorted out in a manner that these issues can very comfortably make both sides be happy. These are issues that don't need any fighting for, because these are things on both sides we agree with. I mean, if you hear the issue of two-third gender rule, if you're talking about looking at the issue of sorting out the electoral injustices in terms of just trying to make sure the elections become a thing of the past, mm-hmm. you know. And this is something that people of good faith can sit down and discuss and agree with. The problem that I'm having as I'm sitting here with you, Dibaba, is that from, I think, the time I started coming to your studio must have been around last year sometime. And I said...
Here or on the other side of the
No,
track?
here.
Okay, here, yes.
Twice or three times as well. I said, we are not, right now, the point many of us are looking at is we understand the cost of our presidency by the handshake. Basically, President Uhuru took all the pig, we call it the ship's tail, cut it off and handed it over to Mzee, and Mzee carried on until his elections. And William Ruto, before he became president, was running on that. And somehow he managed to convince Kenyans that it was during the handshake that the Kenyan government went from 2 trillion shillings of debt to 10 trillion that we have now. It is the time when corruption was most. It is the time when nobody gave a damn about what Kenyans want. And Kenyans, some of them, ended up believing this narrative. And yet it wasn't true. When the country was getting into debt, in fact, President William Ruto was with Uhuru. They shifted 2 trillion to about 7-8 trillion by the time they were disagreeing. When you look at the issues which are outstanding, which have been on in terms of when you look at the issues of corruption and everything, during the time when President William Ruto was with Uhuru in government, there were more corruption stories and cases than when the handshake was on. That is why I talk as a member of the Senate from the Kisii County and who happens to be in ODM. The Kisii people don't want Mzee Raila to negotiate for handshake. What they want is put the issues which are outstanding. If we can sort 4 out of the 7 or out of the 9, so be it. But this narrative where we are still talking about Raila, Mzee wa kitendawili, President William Ruto is acting like he's campaigning. He's the head of state. Raila cannot be. We don't have demonstrations. We've been trying to ask for talks with legitimate issues. If the president feels that those issues are not legitimate, he's the one who said he's been having a private meeting with Raila. I didn't even know. All right? He came out, he said, there are some issues which we have put on the table. Now, how do you take this individual that you have said you went and had a private meeting with, you have discussed with him things which he may have told you or he may not have told you, you have made a recommendation as the president who the people you think, who are the people you have appointed to go and be part and parcel of that meeting, and then you know that the next thing the president does is go to Central Kenya and is just hitting at Raila. He's hitting at everybody in the opposition. He's saying how the opposition, in fact, all they want is a serikali ya nusu mkate. No. We just want the president to know, number one, we want him to govern. Number two, we want him to put the country together. He has that capacity. Number three, let him stand up as a head of state and say, our basic minimums to Mzee Raila and the opposition are this, and Mzee Raila's basic minimums, I believe, are this. We can agree, we can take this 4-4, and we are done. We will not do anything, we mean well. The reason why we can't solve this and that is this. But I really hope that the president can, as we move forward, begin to change his style, that his words of a head of state. Look at Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden is talking about economic empowerment. He's brought in the infrastructure bill. He's changed certain laws. He's talking about how he can take America forward. What is Trump talking about? I'm a victim. They want to lynch me. They don't want me to be president. Now, between President William Ruto and Raila, as we talk right now, who's complaining most?
All right. Let's hear from Wilson Sossion, because it seems now, even as you're coming to this table, there is a we-they siege mentality. We, they want the handshake, we don't want the handshake. What sort of a healthy sort of a platform is it setting up for the conversation on Wednesday? If you're coming with a very acrimonious attitude.
Those are political emotions. And emotions outside the context of law and constitution do not prevail. This is a country governed by a constitution and the law. When we finished the elections on 9th of August, that was the end of all other trivial political talks. A president was sworn in through the sovereign power of the people deciding on 9th of August. That is it. We've seen the so-called demonstrations that have been staged in the country consistently. That has led to vandalism, destruction of property, loss of businesses, the poor women selling wares in the streets, losing their property, the supermarkets being vandalized, roads infrastructure being vandalized. And the president has said, as the commander-in-chief, that not again this type of destruction. So
the backdrop of violence is the ugliest part of is an anticlimax in the growth of the economy. And now to the talks. As the head of state, the president said from the beginning, I'm willing to engage in conversations within Kenya. That is said it. And so, this bipartisan talks is within that context. And when the president was in Coast the other week, this week he has been in Central Kenya or Mount Kenya region, implementing and pushing the agenda of bottom-up economic transformation on which he was elected. That's what he's pushing. And he stated very clearly, two things. Let not the talks, so that it is clear to Kenyans and it's clear to everyone. Those who are thinking, oh, because these talks have been called, then there will be some form of power sharing. He has made it very clear that there is nothing like power sharing. And that's a message to the country and to everyone and to those parties going to that table. That is one. Two, he has made it very clear that he is not going to condone violence and destruction of property anymore. And he means it. The last demonstration collapsed completely and he saw the execution of the state. But then, down to these negotiations, before they were convened, there were meetings between the two parties and the leadership. And there were parameters of agreement on what to talk about by both parties. One, to conclude the constitution of IBC. The country needs it because IBC is a utility entity of all political parties, is an organ that facilitates democracy. Two, entrenching the office of the official leader of the opposition. Because the opposition party must play its rightful role of checking the government. They must have an office with infrastructure and with ability to check government. And it is not only targeted at the current opposition, even an opposition in future. Because that is what we missed in 2010 constitution. Entrenching the two-third gender rule, the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, among others. And of course, we have seen debates, oh, we want to discuss this and that, cost of living. Cost of living cannot be discussed on the table when already it is seized within the hands of the president, who is duly elected and sworn in, and is putting measures in place. Finance bill is working, the subsidies in agriculture is working, the pamba harvest is envisaged, 44 million bags of maize, up from 30 million, so the deficit will almost be one. And it was agreed that cost of living is not an item to be discussed on the table because that is a matter that is seized within the domain of the president. So you cannot, as a president, you cannot let a party to go and discuss what is already working within your domain. So I think the terms of discussions were agreed upon. All what we are witnessing is now drama, the ping pong of drama and trying to dramatize and mobilize their supporters, and which is not going to change anything. But Debal, listen to what the president has said. The president has said, no more violence. When we go to the table, we'll discuss anything, but we cannot discuss power sharing. The president was elected by millions and millions of Kenyans on the basis of an agenda, which they know. And the issue of power sharing is what Kenyans have refused. And then, what is the purpose of having general elections? If after the general elections, you create some tension, confusion, and take out some lives, so that you go to some table to begin negotiating and sharing powers, how many ministries do you take, no, those things are out, and the president has become very clear. So the meetings that will start on Wednesday, and the parties that are meeting, go meet. Even if you don't agree with the original agenda that was agreed, you can still move and debate and propose whatever you want to discuss on the table. But then the direction has been guided by the president. It's upon the other groups, the opposition also, to decide. To me, the democratic principle that this country must adopt is we respect the greatest form of dialogue that the people of Kenya exercise sovereignly through the ballot. Let us learn to accept what Kenyans do through the ballot. Let us believe in our electoral process and accept the results and concede defeat and move on, so that what we leave with Kenyans is the issue of economic transformation, the issue of checking the government on its promises.
Thank you.
Because if tomorrow Onyonga is elected the president, you are elected because you made certain commitments to Kenyans. And we'll develop a matrix and say, okay,
I agree with
you promise free education, you promise this, and you check. What the opposition does, it doesn't create a new agenda for the government. You don't create an agenda for the new government.
That one we agree with you.
You put
people
the
like me agree with you.
In office under check and balance to implement in totality what they promise the people. And I think this is a decent politics that we have to play within the framework of the constitution and law.
All right, thank you.
Then we move to another chapter of uniting Kenyans.
Thank you, Socio.
Where we can take tea with Dr. Nyikal here.
Right.
And I can visit Onyonga in Kisii.
Okay.
And we move on.
Maybe we need to pick out
let's
one
move
issue.
the country
we need to pick
to
up
the next level.
Yes, we need to pick up one issue and tease it out, because I think also when we bring a lot of issues on the table as well, it will be so cluttered and we just get clarity. One of it has been the IBC. And the contention has been, first of all, that we have the recruiting party that is still there.
Recruiting panel.
Right, or the panel. And it's still also, while these things are ongoing, they're still eking out a living out of doing nothing. Because there is no recruitment, because there is a gazettement, there is no recruitment of IBC commissioners happening. We have Azimio who is saying, especially if we may just pick up this, Oparanya says recruitment is now political and not legal issue. And the panel members are only on selfish pursuit. We have UDA's Owen Bayer says the panel is legally in office and there is no ground to hound members out. Malala said the panel will have to remain in place as planned talks are not anchored in any law. So we have a panel who are raking in a lot of billions right now, or maybe the taxpayers paying a lot of billions to maintain them for doing nothing.
I think before I'll bring that as one final issue, but I think let's discuss this on the basis of from what is known to what is unknown.
To the unknown.
And Kenya, as a country, as the sovereign republic of Kenya, first of all, comprises of many nation states. It's a fact. Kenya has been a democracy since 1963. Kenya has been a multi-party democracy since 1991. We have had elections at the end of every 5 years. Those are facts. But from 1991, and I want Mheshimiwa Onyonga to listen to this, we have had an emerging phenomenon from 1991. At the end of every election, there has been agitation by the losers to force certain changes to the government. In 1992, immediately after the election, there was agitation. Even some, it didn't happen. In 1997, there was cooperation, there was merger. I'm sure you know again what happened in 2002, the Tosha, the 2005, the referendum, the 2007, the civil war, the serious security crisis, 2013, the Hague issue, 2017, no election, and come to 2022, where we have had the most fiercely fought general election. To the best of my recollection, I think outside 2007. The reality is, I was supporting Azimio. He was supporting Azimio. He was supporting Azimio. We lost. IBC, which is legally mandated to referee the election, declared a winner and a loser. The loser, not satisfied with the results, went to the apex court. The apex court made a declaration that the election was won fairly and squarely by His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. The incumbent then, willfully, as required by the Constitution, handed over the instruments of power to the incoming president. The instrument of power willfully to the incoming president, as required by the Constitution. Because Kenya is not a banana republic. After that, the winner went ahead and formed a government. That government was formed on the basis of the existing manifesto. And this is the bit. Our manifestos were completely different. The manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza, and I don't speak for them, the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government was bottom-up approach. Our manifesto coalesced around the Big Four agenda. That is why even what the president said in Mount Kenya yesterday is consistent with what he said during the election.
Correct.
Everybody was in a clamor to climb Mount Kenya. We failed to climb Mount Kenya as Azimio. He climbed Mount Kenya. What he's doing right now is to fulfill the promises that he made to the people of Mount Kenya. Legitimately so. Why do you want to stop somebody to fulfill the promises that he has made? If anything, the president should be thanked for going back to his electorate, those who voted him, those everybody wanted, because the Mount Kenya are the most numerically, you know what I'm talking about. He's fulfilling the promises, and that is in line. They should be commended. That being the case, is it fair for the losers from 1992 to death to every time want to influence how the government that has defeated them will want to function? What is the essence of our democracy? And I want to invoke this. Article 1 of the Constitution, which the framers of the current Constitution actually deeply thought of in our governance platform, says, it says, chapter 1, sovereignty of the people and supremacy of this Constitution. I want you to listen to this so that we understand and where the mistake is right now. The sovereignty of the people. 1, all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. 2, the people may exercise this sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. This is why throughout the government in power has been, if we have to do anything, let's do within the ambit of parliament. I'm glad that that now has been accepted, even with a bit of infusion from outside. That being the case, Dibal, this is the challenge. I have listened to Honorable Raila, Baba Raila. He's a respected elder and he must be respected. Equally, he must also respect the will of the people. And I'm glad what he said yesterday actually makes, he said, we are going to these negotiations without any precondition. We're also here in other quarters within the same group saying, this must be done, this must be done. I think I want to add, and there's something that Honorable Murkomen said yesterday, in a tweet or wherever he was. Let the leadership, Honorable Kalonzo is also a very reasonable, very seasoned politician. The Honorable Ichunga is also highly seasoned, well-informed politician. A decision has been made to discuss what will add value to the country. Let them sit down, go through. They may not agree on everything, but I believe the issue of IBC is a constitutional issue. That's why I'm saying the issue of the panel is a statutory issue. It's in the Election Act, IBC Act, that whenever there's a vacancy, there has to be a panel. There's a vacancy right now. The panel has been gazetted. What will they do? They have not completed their mandate. The issue of whether they're earning or not, I'm not sure of the details. But the panel must complete its mandate of recruiting unless the law is amended.
But is the exercise ongoing?
The bit I'm saying is the exercise is not ongoing because there has been an attempt to give room actually to the dialogue which is going on. The dialogue. Because IBC is supposed to serve everybody. And that's why I've heard the president say he has no problem. Even last night he repeated and said he has no problem who is appointed to be a commissioner of IBC because ultimately the will belongs to the people. To that extent, why don't we fast track the issue of IBC and reconstitute so that we are off that agenda? 2, the issue of two-thirds gender rule has always been part of the agenda. It's a constitutional issue. You remember in the last parliament, The then CJ, the Honorable Maraga, made a decision that that parliament was illegal. That issue has always been on our neck. We attempted to sanitize it through the BPI. The BPI failed. This is a perfect opportunity. But also something else. In our democratic platform, we have those who are in government and those who are in position. There's a proposal to give legitimacy to the office of official opposition so that it's a constitutional office. They are funded by the taxpayers. They do their mandate, undertake their mandate as official opposition and check what the government or those who are in government are doing. That, in my opinion, should have been the first agenda. Just like the UK. It's like you have a government, you have the office of the official opposition. What they do...
And shadow cabinet.
And shadow cabinet. What they do is, you have like now the issue of finance bill. I know it's sub judice. I don't want to discuss into the nitty-gritty. But if the government is presenting a budget, the official opposition will also present their budget. The public will have an opportunity to interrogate and say, this is what the government has done, these are the pitfalls, this is what the opposition has done, and on those basis is what you will present to the taxpayers, so that when the election comes, you say, my proposals are better than what the government has done. That is the way our democracy is supposed to play. The most divisive election in the world recently took place in America. Do you see the Republicans every day going to Biden telling him that we need to have an inclusive discussion? No.
Yes.
No,
yes.
On the budget issues.
On everything.
Budget,
on everything. On everything.
Inclusivity.
Everything.
Inclusivity on
In
the budget.
fact, the Republicans are hitting at Biden because they believe he has employed too many black people.
Let me finish this. Inclusivity to the extent of solving the budget impasse. But on not who is employed, not how this is done, basically how this is done. My conclusion is this.
So you've had a clergy, they want to give us time.
My conclusion on this. My conclusion is this right now.
Has been fairly silent.
We have all agreed that Mandamando is not the route to the solution to some of the emerging problems that this country is facing. The solution is dialogue. Dialogue has been initiated by the top leadership. His Excellency the President and the Right Honorable Baba Raila have agreed on this. What remains right now is for those who have been tasked to the committees, to the respective committees, to sit down, itemize what will add value, not politics, and come up with recommendations that will add value to the well-being of the people of Kenya. And
Thank you.
Finally,
You have finished. You have how many finalists?
Okay, on
this is the third finals now. I'll toll my bell.
Okay. I accept.
You'll come back. Yeah, we'll circle back.
You know, I start with why we are sitting here this morning, and we are probably half an hour, 20 minutes. Let's go. Will the discussions take place and will they be useful? I think that is what I hear. The rest is we'll need even 4 hours and history. What is important here is the two principals in this matter sat down and agreed that there should be talks. That's where we start. So what we can discuss here is why are these talks not going on, or should and what are they going to discuss? But mainly why they are not going on. All the history of election to this, they know. The principals know. Honorable Ruto knows. Honorable Raila Odinga knows. So when they say, do we sit and discuss, they know. So despite all that, they said, let's talk. The question is, why aren't the talks going on? Now, what I'm seeing is, I see an element of insincerity. And why I'm saying I see an element of insincerity is this. When you pick people to go and talk, really you must get people who you think will be fair on what you want to discuss. Not people who have said, even before you talk, we don't want that talk. We are going to talk about that. But you are talking after you have been picked by your leader. So when Honorable Kyungwa, he says, this we shall not talk about. That is what was decided there when the two met. So what we expect them to go down and talk. Okay, when you go to a talk, you cannot come with what is going to be said. Otherwise, you don't need a talk. You can agree on general principles and accept it that one side has come with what they think is important, the other side has come with what they think is important. What is important at that talk, let them sort these things out instead of putting conditions out and like they're discussing outside the talks. So that is really, to me, that is the issue. These talks outside, we are going to discuss it. And look at what people seem to be disagreeing. It's actually very interesting. They are disagreeing on what they are agreeing. Why? One party said, we are not going to talk about the handshake. The other party said, we don't want the handshake. So if both of you don't want it, so what is the difference?
What are we screaming about?
The other one says, we don't want the handshake. The other one says, we know you want the handshake. Then you have agreed. From that point. So why are people not sitting down and saying that? So
these polemics are very interesting.
So what I'm really seeing is on the part of of Kenya Kwanza, I'm seeing a general principle of inability to implement good ideas, so that even when they have agreed in principle that we shall talk, which is a great idea, that's what the country is looking for. Getting down to get that talk becomes a problem. You see it even in implementation of other things, even the economic issues. Great ideas, but when you want to put them, you don't see them happening. No, you see it even in education. Great ideas, but when you want to put it on the table, it does not happen. So this is what we are seeing. They are stuck on certain areas. A campaign, we have not moved from there. And then you get stuck on a person, Raila, and the handshake. You must move out of that. When you are in a position, however you get it, you are the president. You don't keep saying, I'm the president. Just govern. Just govern. And the presidency will be obvious.
All right.
And when you say talk, let people talk.
All right, Richard.
Dr. Nyekal, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I want to really say this, Deepak. After being in this house, in this National Assembly, and now in the Senate for all these years, there are two things I've understood now. And I was shocked. I don't know whether, Honorable Kainan, you saw the comment that Babangida has released as to why Africa is having military coups. Did you see it? I'll forward it to you. He says, if you have your judiciary being compromised, if you have no exit valve for your people, even when you could be right on certain issues, when you take your country and run it as a private fiefdom, then you leave no options open. And the fourth point he raised is that when political leadership and the political class does not have time to discuss anything about their country. And I want to state here very clearly, Kenya's problem, my colleagues, for me, has been political. Kenya's problem economically, we are able to do the best we can. Kenyans are resilient. The Kenyan economy, look at what we are doing right now. Honorable Kainan, it's actually mind-boggling because I've been with you from the time we joined this House of Parliament until now. Our collectible revenue when we left with President Moi was only 620. No, it was 290 billion. 180 to 290 billion. Imagine the ball. That is what Kenya was collecting by the year 2005.
2002?
Yeah, up to 2005. From that time, look at what happened during the Uhuru regime. The money, Kibaki regime, Kibaki pushed it from 290 billion, he pushed it to about 690. That is all Kibaki used to have as a budget. Then we moved from there and Uhuru came in, we shot $1 trillion. So there are certain fundamentals in our country that if put together, if the political class can agree to agree, and Honorable Kainan, what we, some of us in the opposition are saying, we don't want you, people like you, I don't want you to be an extremist. You are the balancing effect that we need on the other side. Because I've known your history, I completely agree with you that we need to accept the election results, that we need to have the loser accept the winner, accept gracefully, and then we move on as a country. But you also know that our country has had a challenge whereby in 2002, fantastic election. Election after, of course there was a problem. You come to the election after, it is by first time in Kenya's history, Supreme Court says this election was not free and fair. You look at the following election, what we are saying, Honorable Kainan, can we take these pillars that we need for Kenya to shoot to the middle level country where Kenya goes to the next level, and then politically manage them by accepting that politicians are not going to destroy this country? And what we are saying, we are pleading with the other side to completely remove it from their mindset in the perspective that we are trying to ask for a handshake. We know that has been an issue. We know everybody says Mzee Raila wants to be given minister. I don't think that is what we are expecting. For us, we want the president to govern well. Honestly, because we don't have any other country to go to. All right? But we want the president to behave as a father figure. We don't want the president to keep on answering himself with Uhuru. We don't want the president to go to rallies insulting Raila. You are creating unnecessary temperatures for our country. People want the president to govern. Govern, sir. Manage your affairs. Give us your proposals. We are watching. We in the opposition, I know this story has been brought up, we cannot come in as members of the Azimio coalition, then we start telling the government that what policies are you handling, and yet the government is seized of the matter and the government is doing everything. I agree with you 100%. I was in Trans Nzoia and I passed through Bomet. The maize looks like it has grown quite a bit. If that brings the price of unga down, it is to your advantage. Why are you feeling that we want us to have cheaper food, both in the opposition and in government? We want the president to succeed, but we want clarity on his policies. We don't want today, we are told the fertilizer was brought by the Russians. A day after, you are told the Russians had subsidized it. The third day, you are told the government said it's 250. We don't want those things. Kenyans want clarity. If the president, the ministry says this, if we talk about NSSF, the Ministry of Health says this, consistent with what the government has been trying to do. We want the president to succeed.
Thank you.
Do we want him to fail by the year 2027 so that we defeat him? Yes. If he doesn't listen to what we are saying, and that is what democracy is. If he doesn't listen that Kenyans are hungry, if he doesn't realize fuel is 200 shillings a litre, if he thinks that his colleagues and our other colleagues are getting into these funny things they're doing,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Sean, I'll give you 2 minutes, each of you, so we wind up.
Yes, so I'm
2 minutes.
mesmerized by Onyonga. You want the president to fail in 2027. So that
it is just politics.
and that is why the government is firm. It has advisors. It has a plan which was voted for. It will work. Nevertheless, dialogue is welcome. So all these ulabalu and drama, what is important, I've been in negotiation for years. This bravado is always created. But let people go to the table, and then Kenyans will see what will come out of it. And we would like this negotiation at the table done within the law and the constitution, and if possible, in public view, with no cost from the taxpayers. Let them do it from Parliament, where it can be beamed live. I don't think Kenan and all of you deny them those facilities. So go to the table and then leave the president to do his work. Don't interfere with the president. Let the president continue implementing the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which has 5 major pillars to transform agriculture, micro, small, medium enterprise, strengthen the digital superhighway and the digital economy, the housing plan and universal health care as the main pillars, and other programs. And the president is sticking to the script of the plan that he promised the people of Kenya, and which the people of Kenya voted for. And he signed charters in 47 counties. They are being implemented, and signed charters with special groups like stakeholders in education. A report is being implemented. Let us see results of these, and it will be seen. The president is on point in implementing the programs that he promised Kenyans, and the cost of living is already coming down from the data
2 minutes are done.
of Kenya National
you.
Bureau of Statistics.
Thank you.
Kenya is a country of constitutionalism. And Article 1, the same. 3 says sovereign power under this constitution is delegated to the following organs, which shall form their functions in accordance with this constitution. Parliament and the legislative assemblies. 2, the national executive and executive structure. 3, the judiciary independence. And 4, the independence of the national and account. Meaning, what the Honorable, my good friend here, and we have been together, has alluded to, him as a member of parliament, as a senator, if he feels certain institutions are not working in line with their mandate, he is at liberty to interrogate pursuant to Article 125 of the Constitution, which gives the House of Parliament, the same powers as the High Court. So you should not be complaining. Use the committee framework to hold the government accountable. That is what it's supposed to be. But you don't hold the government accountable through barazas, through mandamandos.
It is in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution. I agree.
It is
I agree.
constitutional.
So you as a legislator, me as a legislator, and you know what we normally do as me as a legislator. If you're not happy with the mandate of a particular ministry, you know how to go about it. Go through the relevant committee. Go through the independent institutions, the control of budget, and the office of the Auditor General. But if that being the case, I've listened to the president. For me, I know I'm not a psychopath. I'm looking at it from purely a professional point of view. I've listened to the president on NSF reforms. There's a law that we passed. We were parliament together in 2012. Do you know that law has never been operationalized until recently? Why was that law which we passed on NSF not operationalized from 2012 to 2023? It's simply because of the fear of the unknown. Right now, it has been operationalized. NSF collections, monthly collections have. Please allow me this.
2 minutes are done. No, we need to be fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Just complete it. I'll give you 10
I've
seconds.
increased from almost 800 million to 6-something billion. If NSF is transformed, NHIF, LAB Fund, LAB Trust, the fuel levy, the housing levy right now, all these combined, in 2 years' time, I can assure you, Kenya will not require an external law.
Thank you.
Then you will
No.
win.
We're winding up. We're winding up. Dr.
Yes.
Nyika.
Then you will win.
Yes.
Dr. Nyika, 2 minutes.
Let there be sincerity as we go to these discussions, so that these discussions resolve the issues that are important to us. Let's not waste time discussing them outside the meetings. So let the meetings go on. Because if they do not work, then we will use Article 1 of the institution that says the people may exercise their sovereign powers directly or through democratically elected representatives. So directly includes Article 37, which is demonstration. So these discussions are important, and you can't have it where two people in the same camp, one like Honorable Ichungwa is totally negative. Then you hear Honorable Mukome very positive. Where these two people can't be talking without the knowledge of their boss.
Thank you.
So is it their boss who is insincere or them?
Thank you. Good question. 30 seconds for you.
I keep on saying this and I keep on pleading. We have only one country. I plead that the president will be magnanimous enough, be sober, and like he always is, allow our principals in Azimio, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo, to engage with him. We come with clean hands, and I hope that whatever we discuss and whatever our team comes through with will be for the benefit of our country. We do not want Musumukate. We are ready to go in as members of the opposition. We will oversight the national government. We'll oversight our counties, like me with the Senate. As time moves on, come 2027, God willing,
thank you.
I hope that our side will win.
Thank you. Good point. Thank you so much. We are really pinched for time. I wish we had more, but we don't have time. But I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the very massive debate that we've had. I've been looking forward to Wednesday to see how it will pan out, given that now everyone